And it says that we are live. Good evening. It is Saturday night. It has just gone 8 o'clock, and it's time for some Blake 7. Hurrah! Episode 2. We're finally doing it. It's start of a new year, so I hope you've had a good year. A good new year and a good Christmas. Yeah, getting straight into it. Blake 7, Episode 2, Spacefall. Guys, it's great to be back doing this again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's going to be good fun. So yeah,
yeah,
we should be straight into doing Blake 7, back doing Blake 7 again. Obviously we are doing other things as well. We're doing Space 1999 as well and Doctor Who. It has been a while between episode 1 and episode 2, but it couldn't be helped. Are you looking forward to this episode?
Oh yeah.
definitely. This is a great episode. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, get the
Yeah.
introduction of the best character in sci-fi, the best ship in sci-fi.
Yeah,
Chuck
we,
Darwin.
yeah, we get two icons in science fiction television today.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not only that. I just closed one of the windows that I didn't want to close, but it's it's the fact that I think what I like with Blake 7 above all the others, when you talk about a show that front runs sci-fi, it's a show that I think is actually gaining more momentum now than it had back then. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are just waking up to it and are just sort of like, I mean, maybe it's a potentially this is the bonus to having streaming services now. Is the fact that people who had previously not been able to see these shows can now actually just access them and for free or basically what for subscription fee I should say. So I think there's people out there. It's finding a new audience. It's kind of like what UK TV Gold did for sci-fi in the 90s. So
Well, I keep seeing talk of like doing a reboot and
yeah,
restarting Blake. So I'm like, no, don't do it
No, no.
because to do it now, I don't want to use the term woke, but if it goes near the BBC, half the stuff that made particularly the first two episodes of Blake 7 hard hitting, dark, gritty, however you want to describe it. There's a few incidents that they just wouldn't put in today for fear of offending people, and that would totally detract away from why Blake is so determined as he is in the series. So
yeah.
I hope they never remake it.
I think the other part of Blake 7 as well is the fact that it's not just the fact that it's severe storytelling. I think I'll be honest though. I've not really been keeping up with what Russell T Davies has been doing since he left Doctor Who. But years and years is supposed to be a good show. I did see a bit of It's a Sin, and I think he would actually do it. I think he would actually run with it. But it would have to be, it would have to be under him. Like it would have to be his guidance because he's willing to take serious topics. I mean, It's a Sin's all about the AIDS epidemic, and it's basically dealing with a group of people that, it's set in the 1980s, so it's literally set around that time whereby it started to kick off and nobody knew anything about it, and it was the fear and scaremongering that was going on around that situation. So if he's able to tackle that, I'd be willing to see what he could do with it.
Well,
You know,
let's see how he turns Doctor Who around first
yeah.
before I let him anywhere near mentally
Well,
Blake 7.
I'm done with Doctor Who, I guess. And until something happens, I've not seen the last special. I haven't seen the last series. I haven't seen the special before that. So
Nor have I.
No, no.
it's not that it's dead to me. It's just I'm waiting for the next DVD box set to come out
No,
for
it's
the
not that
classics. So
It's
Yeah,
not
so
that he's dead
I'm,
to you, it's just in a coma.
well,
I'm quite happy to just sit there and watch, the classic era, 63 to 89.
Yeah.
I don't need the modern stuff. It
Yeah.
doesn't interest me at all.
But I mean, I think that he is one of the people that could potentially do it. I think there is stuff to mine from it. The other thing with Blake Seven, of course, to remember is that it does kind of lose its way further in the series,
Yeah.
as good as it is. So I mean, making a new show whereby you could say, right then, we're going to make 4 seasons of this. Stick to the 4 seasons. Don't be tempted to do more than 4 seasons, but do 4 good seasons. I think that's always a problem with a TV show, that it tends to, most TV shows run long and end up jumping the shark. That tends to be the big problem with a lot of TV shows.
Killing Eve instantly springs to mind.
Well, yeah, there's plenty. Yeah, carry on.
No, I was just saying that. I mean, that's the prime example. It was an idea, and it was an idea that was good for one series. But we're now getting the 4th series of it, and it's really outstaying its welcome now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of the show Community. Have you seen Community with John McHale and Chevy Chase? It's a good show. I think it's what, 5 seasons long. I think it is 5-6 seasons. That jumps the shark. There's moments in that whereby it's like, okay, now you're crossing into real life now, and things aren't. You can't do that. You're being a bit silly. And it's just being silly for silly's sake, But I still enjoy the show for what it is. But yeah, I mean, Blake Seven. The biggest problem with redoing Blake Seven would be the fact that you don't want the BBC to redo it. You could at this point in time you could have any other production company redo it, just not the BBC. Um, it is an issue. I will say this: it's an issue. I think with what's happening at the BBC right now as well, man. I don't know. There's a part of me. I think I was watching. I'm trying to think what it was I was watching. It was something with Frida Adjuman. She was talking about diversity in casting and things like that, and she was like,
Oh no!
"Don't do it."
Oh,
There's no,
thank God for that.
she was like, "No, well, no." Her entire thing was like, "You need to be casting because that's the right person to cast." Diversity should just be natural anyway, because nobody's the same. It's not like you're casting this person and that person and that person, and they're all identical. It's not like you're casting triplets, or something like that. You're casting people; they're different anyway. So just the differences are endemic anyway when you cast somebody. It's just you shouldn't be casting somebody deliberately because they look a particular way or because they are a particular thing. You should be just casting them for who's right for the role. Which it's what we've been saying all along. I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think at this moment in time, the BBC does have an agenda. It is trying to be. I mean, I don't even know. I can see the confusion actually on some people, whereby it's like, what's the problem with diversity? And the problem is that you're just electing people based on surface values instead of actually academia. You're choosing somebody based upon the skin tone or the fact that they like there's some people. I don't know how much you watch TV. I don't watch it that often. I barely see it because I don't have TV anymore. But when I go up my mother's and I visit her, she has TV on all the time, and there's some stuff you see on it. It's just like, this is crazy. They've got people like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but like, have you seen the Last Leg?
Yeah.
I've seen the last leg before, yeah.
Yeah. Now the guys on the Last Leg are brilliant, and I would not replace any one of them. They are absolutely the right people. They started off doing it for the Paralympics, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And they work as a team. They work brilliantly as a team. But you wouldn't like deliberately put somebody in there just because they were disabled. Unless that was a topic that you were going to actually talk about. It's not something that you would just deliberately do. And they don't do that. You know, they actually look at what somebody's capable of achieving, and then they talk about that instead. And it's a different point of view. It's just a different perspective. It's saying, look, you know, we know that these people, this person doesn't have legs, this person doesn't have an arm, this person, but they don't just sit there for the whole thing and go, look, no arm.
Yeah.
They go, you know, what's this person done? What's this person achieved? How look at the positives of this, of the influence and the inspiration that this person can be, and it's how you frame it. And I think that's the big difference between what is happening in the world versus what the media are trying to portray. And that's a big problem. But there we are. Anyway, on to Blake 7, Spacefall, Episode 2. So the synopsis here reads, Blake takes the prison transport ship to London under siege with help from Kerr, Avon, and Jenna Stannis. But the siege fails. Blake and Jenna and Avon are sent to investigate an abandoned alien vessel. Yeah, we get in the introduction of the Liberator into this. Yeah, here we go. Questions?
I think this is even better than episode 1, despite the fact that it does have one rather glaring sort of problem with the way the story develops in this episode.
I mean, it's got an overabundance of shaving foam.
Yeah, it's got plenty of that. Yeah.
You know, I think that the universe it starts building from episode, because episode 1 is very earthbound, and the idea of taking it from Earth into space and broadening the universe then. It's not something that was endemic to the first episode. I don't think, like, maybe like people were obviously looking at it as a it's kind of like Blade Runner in a way. You know where Blade Runner keeps mentioning colonies are off-world and things like that,
Yeah.
but you never see the spaceships. Like, and even when it comes to Blade Runner 2049, you still don't go off-world. I'm wondering if that's the sort of universe that the Blake 7 cities around the world are like. I'm just curious as to what do you think? What do you think the Blake 7 Earth is like?
Well, I mean, I got the impression from the first episode that it's a little bit dystopian, and everyone kind of lives in sort of like a, I don't know, like a concrete bubble, really. You know, they're not allowed to go to the outside. It's I think it's like it'd be a claustrophobic world. I don't think it'd be as
it's certainly not a nice place to live by, judging by.
The thing is, though, is it a nice place to live? Because I'm trying to get my head around this. Because if you don't, because most of the people inside the cities, that's the life they know.
Yeah, but they're
It's
still
not-
living.
Well,
they're still living through
But
fear,
they're
though,
not
aren't they?
homeless.
Well,
no, I don't think they are. They don't.
No, because it's all drug induced sort of state of where they question nothing, they don't want for anything, but that's because they
Did you know
just
Euphoria?
don't want anything. Yeah, there's none of that. It looks like it's a very sort of almost like fascist, but globally fascist regime that are keeping the people in order by, drugging their food and water supply.
But it does raise the question then, though, is that, if the public are really happy to go along with it, is it a bad thing?
Well, I think it's that they are just like completely unaware of it.
Yeah, but I think this is one of the questions that the series does raise, though, is the fact that you are talking about as a society with a hierarchy and culture, but there's no homeless, there's no destitution.
No, that's true. I mean, the whole Blake Seven series from start to finish always has you wondering, who are the actual villains in this? So, it may seem like almost an obvious question that you're asking there, about is it a nice place to live? But really, it's not that obvious at all.
No, because when you start digging into it, you're dealing with the fact that how does this affect the rest of the planet? Because we've only seen a small section of we see we look at trying to look at a planet through a keyhole, and we see a small section of society. We don't know what Australia is like. We don't know what India is like. We don't know. We're assuming that it's similar, but we don't know how they run. We don't know what the cities are like. We don't know we don't even know what the population density is.
No, but when you're talking about like a galactic federation, you kind of assume that the whole planet comes under that wing. So I would imagine most of the populace that's not at the top of the food chain is pretty well underhill with drugs, as Lucosa said.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is like we've only seen like what's inside one city, pretty much. We haven't we don't know what's outside. We don't know if there are people living in Arizona. We don't know if there are people living outside city domes. We don't know if there's an island somewhere where it's just native humans. We have no real grasp on this. But the point is that even if that was the case, the hierarchy structure of the functionality within inside these cities, it still seems to be very euphoric. They seem to everything seems to be quite like I would say the punishments seem severe from what we've seen from the first episode and what we're going to continue with the second episode. But there's a lot of sort of brainwashing going on. But at the same time, what are we looking at as crime levels? Well, what is a crime level in Blake Seven's universe?
What makes it tricky as well is, of course, we're shown all this from the point of view of the main characters, who are themselves criminals.
Yeah.
So, but they're not going to stand there and say, "Yeah, we're criminals, we're scum," and that. They're going to,
they're going to tell from their point of view.
Yeah, exactly. So, we could be seeing a completely distorted view of what life is actually like on Earth.
That's exactly my point. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, for all we know, what we are seeing as Earth could be actually this small slice of what is essentially a paradise, where there's no crime, there's no it could be like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where they go to the future and they go in there and there's all the harmony music and so on, and people just strumming. It could be that sort of thing, like whereby it's actually a tranquility.
It could be, but I mean the way it's all right. We are like Chris said, we are looking at it through criminal eyes, I suppose. But if you're in a state where you're totally compos mentis and you're looking at someone that's being controlled by drugs and mind control and that, from my point of view, that's an awful way to live. But if you're under the effects of that, so you don't know any different, and everything, you get your food in the morning, your trousers turn up ironed, and your shoes turned up polished, you're going to think it's great because you don't need a wiser. But once you've tasted freedom, would you want to go back to that? That's like the question was asked that in the first Matrix when Cypher, wants to go back in again.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I was going to bring the Matrix up as part of it because the Matrix does ask the question, would you rather live in ignorance or face the real world? And they were going to give the people the choice. I haven't seen the new film. I couldn't tell you what happens, but the choices of this universe, obviously, the idea is that the choices have been taken away. But the idea, again, on top of that, is that your freedom, your rights, are already taken away anyway. You don't really have it. You don't, even us as a society today, we don't really have rights. We are issued things that can be amended. You can't amend rights. So if it's your right, you can't amend those. How can you amend a right if it's your right? You can't change that. If that's what you're entitled to, you can't suddenly go, oh well, you were entitled to this, but we're going to take that back. You can't do that. That's not how rights work.
Well, no, but in the Blake 7 world, you wouldn't even think about doing that because you're being totally
No.
controlled. Whereas
But
you,
this-
if you wanted to go out and rob a bank, all right, you'd have to face the consequences, but you've got the choice of being right or wrong, whether you want to do that or not. Whereas in this universe, they wouldn't even think about it, which is why in the first episode,
But they
whatever her
you-
name
like-
was, stopped Blake from eating and drinking for a few days.
Yes, but you're still asking the question though of what defines the rights and what defines criminality and what defines the rights and wrongs of these people. You know, where you're talking about, you know, you said yourself there. No, I could make the choice to commit a crime. Well, technically, by not following the rules of any society, you're committing a crime. So even by Blake making the decision to not drink or not eat, that could technically be seen as a crime.
Well, of course, leaving the dung, just going outside,
Yeah.
was considered a crime. Yeah.
Exactly. We might see it as not being that big of a deal, but I mean, it was. It's like when people talk about life inside North Korea. We don't really know that much about it to be able to make commentary on it. We assume it's harsh, but we've never been there. We've not seen it. We don't know. You know, the only thing that we are given is a skewed perspective and propaganda. You know, we actually without having gone there, we couldn't possibly make an accurate statement as to what it's like. We assume that it's going to be different to how we would want to live, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's different to how. I'd be fairly sure that there are plenty of people living in North Korea that absolutely like the lifestyle. You know, I'd be willing to bet that is a case. Like that there's a thing for that. Like I know there are people from other countries that, I mean, we've talked about this. I think we talked about this before, whereby we mentioned about people living in some of the worst war-torn areas in the world. I was like, we can't understand why the hell people would want to live there, but they do, So
Yeah.
it does happen. So I think Blake 7 is good in the fact that it is actually one of these shows that it, even on a surface level, is starting to ask questions that most science fiction won't tackle, but it's doing it through the lens of, as Koza said, through seeing it from the criminal's point of view, because technically that's what they are. But anyway, shall we crack on with episode 2?
Yeah, that was a lot deeper than I was expecting. I'm
It's
coming
what
to
the
go
show
to
is,
good night's sleep. Yeah, I know.
It's that's why I like Blake 7. It's because it actually is, to me, this is one of the best written sci-fi shows ever created.
Oh,
It is
absolutely, yeah.
This is why I like it. This is why I don't like the modern incarnations of Star Trek and a lot of the stuff. I like science fiction that when the show's finished, you've still got questions, and you've like we've just been talking for 20 minutes about what they didn't show us in the program,
Yeah.
and that's what I like about this type of sci-fi. Whereas
It still asks the questions.
yeah, whereas a lot of the stuff today, it's like they bring out a silver platter with all of the information on it, so they don't upset anybody, and you're not left with any questions or any sort of any being able to think for yourself of what might happen or what's going on, because you've been told. It's literally flag waved in nearly every modern sci-fi program. They're literally that far away for an holding up a sign saying, "Yep, this is what's happening now," and and that's what's missing. This is why I love this program.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it as well is the fact that the heroes here, technically the heroes are villains, or however you want to call it, Blake's crew, Blake's 7, they're not even heroes. You know, they're all criminals. They're all, you know, thieves and smugglers and
Yeah.
and this is sci-fi written at a time whereby everybody was the heroes, the villains, and the heroes all got along. The villains were all, you know, twirly mustache types with henchmen and all that. It's very formulaic, and then this just kind of just throws it all up in the air and just goes,
Yeah.
have at it.
No, I mean that's it. I mean the biggest villain about when this was first put on telly, really, I suppose, to quote you directly, Carwin, was an asthmatic arsewipe.
Yep, that'd be Mr. Vader. But yeah, I mean, but again, like I'm not saying that Darth Vader was not necessary. It's just the fact that it was very much he was clearly defined. There's the villain.
Yeah,
Whereas with Blake 7, it's far more like this is a living universe, and things aren't black and white, and even the heroes of this piece aren't nice. They're not. I wouldn't.
not
They're
at all.
not good people, and they're not likable.
no, I mean technically, as the series goes on, I mean, I suppose Servalan, even though she is kind of, from our point of view, our access into the program, she's like the baddie.
Yes,
But she's not. She's the law enforcement. So
yeah, she's just trying to keep control.
yeah.
And she's doing the best that she can to ensure the survival of society. You know, and it's yes, she is living a lavish lifestyle that it's not what everybody else is used to. But we're also living in a society where that is still the case anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just recently we've had things where Downing Street have been saying, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, and then they've gone
And
thrown
then they go
themselves
ahead and do
parties.
it. Yeah.
You know, so we're already there. This is how good the show is, whereby it's actually mirroring life today now. You know, it's such a, it's not generic, but it throws such a broad net that I think that it's still, you know, the production values are never going to be great because it's BBC, but its scope and its size and dimension of the storytelling, it still makes it contemporary.
Terry Nation, man, what a writer he was.
Well, not just Terry Nation. I mean,
Well, yeah.
he was the guy behind it, you know. But I think
Yeah, wasn't it Chris Boucher, I think, wrote a lot of
yeah,
this.
yeah. So anyway, let's make a start and let's start watching episode 2, Blake 7, Spacefall, and let's get into this. And
I'm all ready. I've got a Starfield. I'm at all the zeros.
oh, okay, there we go. Ready and press and pray. Press and play in 3, 2, 1. Boom. Ba, 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 da, ba, 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 da, ba, ba, da. I think it's a great title. I prefer this to the later season openers. It's all
Yeah.
about brainwashing, monitoring. It's just cool. Like the later ones, like that flight simulator-y thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's season 4, yeah.
Here we go, rocking up. There's the London. I mean, the thing is, well, this is come out, what, 2 years after, or maybe, no, it's going to be before, isn't it? It's just before Alien.
Alien was 79.
Yeah, it's
so,
79, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you press those buttons. My God. Look.
Leslie Schofield, got to have him in something.
Yeah.
Actually, we're only a day out. This was first broadcast on the 9th of January, 1978.
Yep. I know. It's cool
44 years.
They should have shot that upwards, and now they're coming down, so the smoke would have just gone straight up. But never mind. Like, I know this is what I mean with the production. It's supposed to be the deck of a bridge of a spaceship, but it looks like the broom cupboard at the BBC. No wonder the damn sets were breaking when people were pressing buttons like that. I gotta press the enter key. Use a sledgehammer.
Yeah. I don't know anybody who actually types at a keyboard, anything like that.
You break a typewriter like that. This is an interesting bit of light. So they've actually got a bright light coming in through the actual set windows to make it look like it's being daylight from the outside.
Be discreet. I mean,
Be discreet,
what is
yeah.
he referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that wouldn't be included if this was remade today.
Yeah.
The good thing with Leslie Schofield as well is that he's unfortunately one of those people that is in Star Wars, but he's more famous for being in the holiday special. He's in 182 episodes of EastEnders. Never saw one of them. He's a strange one. I'll give him that because he tends to play the more wholesome characters, but it's only the sort of the villainous ones I really know him for. You know, I remember him in Doctor Who. I remember him in this, and he's a member of the Empire in Star Wars. I mean, yeah, that's one of the hell of the topics, other than including this molesting children.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not to draw too heavy on this, but it does hit problem areas in like the production values and the fact that it is suffering from BBC production scoring and we've already started watching Space 1999, which is a much higher production value.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between that and this is staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's 4 years earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, it's BBC cost. They make cheap shows, and they still do it. But this is BBC with sci-fi though. I mean, when you say they make cheap shows, they don't make cheap period dramas. You look at period dramas from this time, like Sherlock and so on, and they top quality.
Mm.
You go them sci-fi, and look, you've got bits of set with stuff peeling off the walls.
I think it's mostly down to the BBC just looks down its nose at
It does.
science fiction.
It does. Some good dialogue.
I love Paul Darrow's delivery as Avon. He's so
Yeah.
scathing in the way he talks to people.
Yeah. He's like he's got something that's slightly scathing on the end.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you can clearly see the production value problems here. It looks like they've robbed the bloody canteen for the tables and chairs.
Yeah.
It does, but I normally ignore all that when I'm watching old BBC programs because it's part of the course.
Because you have to.
Concentrate, if you concentrate too much on that, it totally detracts from the story. That's why whenever we rate these old programs, I tend to ignore that because it's like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, but that's the problem though. They could have made an effort.
Well, it's not like the BBC's got any money. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the model's not too bad.
I like the London as a model. It's only yay big, but it's not a bad model. They could have put a few more lights on the set, a few more blinkies. It looks a little bit dead inside, doesn't it? There's like 2 orange lights and 2 green lights. That's it. Like everything's dead. Look at it. Every panel. There's no lights on anything.
Well, you know, when you're in deep space, you've got to conserve power, ain't you? Everyone knows that.
Well, by shutting down almost the entire bridge, you know.
They're flying through space. All they need is forwards and stop. That's 2 buttons. There's your 2. There's your 2 green lights. Sorted.
The BBC just can't afford a soldering iron.
I mean, having a go at Blake 7 for its effects and its sets is like kicking a puppy.
I am not having to go Blake 7. I'm having to go to the BBC.
Yeah, it's the BBC, yeah.
I fully understand what they're trying to achieve here. I totally get it. It's the fact that this could have been so much better with little effort, and it just goes to show they put in the bare minimum of effort into this.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already made the commentary that this ship is supposed to be run down and beaten up. So why is you got immaculate white walls and like what are you doing? Like stuff should be rusty, peeled. Things should be worn, broken. It gives away the game of it being a set. So as it turns out, this was the first episode to actually be filmed.
Yeah, it must be confusing when you're doing these stories. If you're trying to follow it as an actor, I mean, I know you get the scripts and that, and you can probably read them in order, but filming it all out of sequence.
Yeah. Because you got to know where you were. Can't tell, so everything's off. And the damage report machine's broken. Oh, so this is just something that you want to keep your eye out for. One of the members of one of the prisoners in this is Robbie Coltrane.
All right.
Yeah.
The guy standing between Gan and Jenna should have a red shirt on, really, shouldn't he?
There we go. The lethal shaving foam.
Yeah. Why would you touch it? Why?
Yeah. It goes solid in seconds. Well, you holding it. You may want to get rid of that stuff from your hand.
Yeah.
Suppose that was plenty of a schoolboy's dream, weren't it? Jenna in foam.
Take some of the foam and just rub it in some of the guards' eyes, like. Nobody noticed that. Or the dodgy flap.
Notice what?
Put such an obvious thing in place, like. But there we are.
Thing is, despite everything else, this is another one of them shows, much like the episodes of Doctor Who we've watched, where the actors are just chewing it up. They're making it so believable. You know, they're giving it everything.
It depends on the actor, really. But I mean, normally when you got somebody like Paul Darrow, you're watching it for him. You know, he could be on an empty stage and still filling it up. You know.
Well, this is what I was thinking when you were talking about them bringing back Blake Seven.
Mm-hmm.
How on earth can you do Blake Seven with no Paul Darrow and no Jacqueline Pierce? It's. I mean, that's two enormous holes in the cast. I mean, okay, they wouldn't be able to use any of the original cast now, but you've got to create a new Avon and a new Serverland. That's a big ask.
I mean, but I think the casting is out there. I think you need to. This is where you'd have to sit down and really, really cast. You know.
At the moment, I mean, I have to rack my brains a bit, but I can't think of anyone else that could play Avon.
No, I can't think of anyone else who could play Avon or anyone else who could do Serverland.
You want to know who could do Serverland?
Is this anything to do with the... Yeah, okay, maybe I could have worded that a bit better, eh? Going by this series, a lot of people were able to do Serverland, weren't they?
Yeah. Exactly. I think to have somebody to do Cure Avon, I think you need somebody who can do Cold Blooded. I think that's what you need.
I mean, that really was not a smart idea. Gaping, oh yeah, you got three holes appearing.
Yeah.
I'll put my hands over it. Yeah, that will sort it.
That's quite a nasty thing, though. I mean, I know it's only bubbles, but the implication that he's suffocating.
Yeah. Suffocating is going to become entombed in foam.
Yeah. I mean, you know the budget on the show is really low when the grate on the floor is painted on. Yeah, and the guy twitching there. There's an interesting piece on the wall there. That I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's a ceiling mounted speaker system or something. So it's like a dome, but it's got like three outlets on it.
I either haven't seen the bit you're talking about, or it hasn't registered yet.
It's on the
I
wall.
saw
It's
it
a
as it
silver thing.
disappeared off screen. Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't even afford a blue light bulb. Come on.
You would have to change it during a red alert, wouldn't they?
Yeah, there it is on the wall behind there. I think production wise, with the like the set dressing and so on, I think the real problem is the fact that they don't have any sort of repeatable pieces. So everything just looks like it's just stuck on. It doesn't look like it's built into the set. This sort of scene here now where Reika is sort of takes control, kind of shows just the sort of the person he is. Yeah, it's just a silly moment.
Yeah.
That's one of the I don't think anybody can be that stupid.
No, but it does fit his character though.
It's they should have done something else there. I think.
Yeah, they could have come up with something better than that.
Yeah. So this episode was what 1978.
Yep.
Absolutely not. No, you can't have that whatsoever. What a stupid thing to ask. At no point is that ever a good idea. Can I have a free reign to do whatever the hell I want? No. Played with his brain.
As a very apt line, have you ever met an honest man? Because Blake is most certainly not one of them.
No, exactly.
We're already seeing his fanaticism right here.
Yeah.
If this is him showing me his ass, I'm gonna knock it straight back off. They're not my friends. I mean, they're trying to paint Blake with a sort of moral, um, the sort of a more of a moral code, but he's a prisoner on a prisoner's ship as a criminal. He just seized control. They've attacked the person.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he didn't have to do that.
No, not really.
That's what I'm saying. There are no nice people in this.
No, particularly in this episode.
Yes. I think he does good universe building.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how
Denied.
rapey can you get? Like, that doesn't excuse murder. No matter who gives you permission to do something, murder is still illegal. Nobody can give you permission. Well, maybe the Queen. Yeah, the Queen could probably give you permission to murder.
Do you mean Elizabeth or Brian May, by the way?
Or either one. It's up to you whether you follow through with it. He does have something about him, doesn't he? That he just draws you to his performance.
Yeah.
Like, get in the reading now, sir.
There she is.
I don't actually believe you, Colin, because you haven't got any unlit buttons on your wall. It's really difficult to pick the size of the Liberator. Bigger than the London.
Way bigger, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago when you were showing those images and it had the size of it compared to the Enterprises, I had no idea it was meant to be anything like that big.
No.
Because you're right, at no point in all 4 series, well, 3 series that it's in, do you actually get a real sort of sense of scale.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's really difficult to say. Oh, it's meant to be this big or that big. It's supposed to be a huge ship.
Mm.
You know, but it's for 7 people. I mean, it's and BBC spacesuits.
That's where they got
We're
the
gonna go there
idea
to
of.
paint
Where they
them.
got the idea of RoboCop from. Don't knock it.
I mean, what are they wearing on their heads?
I know it's just
I
come
think
on.
I think the technical term is piss pot.
You know that the production department were trying, but like people were doing like what the designer was asking for. Do you know what I mean? Make it look like a spacesuit. Well, okay, they look like a couple of overgrown Oompa Loompas. They look like they're ready to paint the side of the BBC.
Wearing chamber pots on their heads.
Yeah. There's that door again.
Yeah.
Just turned a different way. They love that door. Gets used everywhere now. You're gonna see it everywhere.
That's some backup sending one bloke out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was that bloke, I'd be like, no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. There are bodies everywhere. Again, it goes and paints the more of the character by, you know, the determination for money and wealth and power and
But this idea, sending prisoners over there to, well, we found this enormous ship. It's extremely powerful, extremely valuable. We'll send prisoners over there. Which ones? How about the three that led the attempt to take over this ship? Yeah, we'll send them over.
Yeah.
They're perfectly all right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that the logic of Raker there is because that's three prisoners that can drop him right in it if there's some sort of inquiry.
I suppose, yeah.
He's hoping
if
they're
they
gonna,
die,
he's hoping they're gonna get killed, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he stood right next to you.
yeah. She's literally like commenting about rape, like, and he's. There's the door again, just from a different angle. They love it. They love the door.
It's obviously a standard Federation fitting.
Yeah, but it's also the door for the Liberator.
Yeah, I say it's on the Liberator and all. So.
There it is. So it's worth noting here that when they started making this episode with the Liberator, that none of the panels were finished in time. So what they're actually talking about there's actually nothing there. None of the instrument panels is just blank and empty because the art department were behind. The panels you see there is from the end. It's literally filmed out of sequence. See, it's vivid imagery, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I like it to be a bit more psychedelic.
Well, it's 1978, not 1968.
No, but I mean, like the idea of dealing with people's memories and things should be all disjointed anyway. And I think when they do that, they should express it as more disjointed. But it still makes it vivid. They should have tied that into be a part of his treatment because he's had it twice. Like you'd have it so that it's messed. They've messed around with his brain enough now that he's not susceptible to that sort of thing, that sort of fakery. It's also worth noting as well that when they were making this show, when they finished filming, they struck the set for the Liberator, and the production department were absolutely livid because the BBC workers that were normally there for striking sets were literally just tearing it apart. They literally just tore it down to put it into story. That's why when you see it, like it's like, oh, there's all wobbly sets and everything. It's because they didn't give a crap. They literally just tore it apart.
Yeah.
The cushions on the seating and everything, they literally just ripped them off and just slid them across the floor. And you couldn't complain about it at the time at the BBC because if you did, you were just known as a troublemaker then.
Yeah. I assume we weren't meant to see the wires there.
Yeah. There we go. That artwork's terrible.
Yeah, it's not good, is it?
No. Well, that's it. That's the end of episode 2 of Blake 7, Spacefall. Great story.
Superb.
But yeah, the production. This is what I've said to you before about the BBC production department with science fiction. You get your standard crew that are made up of whoever's available at the time. And when it comes to striking the sets and things like that, they would just literally tear it to shreds. There was no case of unscrewing something carefully. It was a case of tear that down. They would literally grab it and tear it down. So things would get broken and damaged. And we're talking, this is straight after the first episode. First time it was ever used, So, people rag on it for, being wobbly sets and all that. They were dealing with a broken set from episode 1. But anyway, thoughts on episode 2?
Absolutely brilliant. Because I tend to ignore the production values, I concentrate on the story and the acting. Obviously, I get what you're saying, but Paul Darrow, Gareth Thomas, Sally Nivet, they were kind of like the lead characters in that episode, all thoroughly believable in the roles they were playing.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's like you've got Leslie Schofield as well. I mean, the guy
Leslie Schofield's brilliant.
you just want to punch him. You know, anyone who can make you that get under your skin that way is a clearly, you know, it's a fantastic character to play. He must have been loving playing it.
I'll tell you what, you know, with the way some people, you know, you watch telly. I mean, I remember stories of Pat Phoenix getting Christmas cards addressed to Elsie Tanner because, you know, on Coronation Street because, you know, people thought the character was real.
Yeah.
Imagine being Leslie Schofield and you're walking down the road, I don't know, just going to pop to the shop to buy some smokes or something, and someone's go, "You bastard! I saw what you did." You know, there are people that believe that. And,
Apparently, Colin Baker, when Colin Baker was in Brothers, used to get death threats.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Because he was one of the biggest villains on TV at the time, you know. So he used to get death threats from playing that character, you know. And you know, that's the way it was at the time. I mean, there's still character actors that know that you know, it's not obviously like things like Comic-Con and things like that have changed the way that people are seen now.
I don't know. I think
the real person.
William Atherton still gets it after his performances in Die Hard and Ghostbusters. I mean, he still gets it today.
As you're mentioning the Brothers there, I always thought Colin Baker's performance in that was fantastic. That was such a good, good job he made of that thing.
Yeah, but I mean, but he was really good at being bitter.
Yeah,
really, and cold, and you know, it's obviously when he shows up in Blake 7, he's hammering it to the.
Yeah. I mean, he's big time pantomime villain when he shows up as Maven.
Yeah, it's just having fun, but you can tell, like, you know, there's a lot of good commitment in this to by the actors, you know. I mean, one of the lesser actor, I don't know if that's the right term to use, but David Jackson, who plays Ola Gan, he is a softer actor in that he's believable in what he does, but he looks gentle.
Yeah.
You do you know what I mean? Whereas somebody like Paul Darrow, his commitment to his sternness, I guess, is probably what I would say. His commitment to it is that it's such a brilliant performance because it's so on an edge. It's so much of this could go either way with him, you know. One way he could turn it right, and the other way he could turn it wrong. But it's a knife edge performance. It really is a knife edge performance. But it's, you know, if he had overplayed it, it could have been silly. That's what I'm saying. Is that if you'd overdone it, it would have been silly, and if you'd underdone it, it would have been like, come on, you're just phoning this in.
Yeah.
But it's spot on. It is spot on, his performance, and everything I've ever seen him in, he's always been spot on. He's always made the right choice, as far as I'm concerned.
Even Timelash.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the saving grace of Timelash.
Well,
it's him and the Borat, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, we've got the visual effects we can talk about in this. It ranges from nice model work to they could have done a little bit better, to painted artwork, to photographs. It's all over the place visually.
Visually, I think it's a bit of a mess, this.
Yeah.
Because I'm still remembering back to when we did Space 1999, and so I'm remembering those sets and how good they were. And you look at these are shockingly awful sets, aren't they?
The thing is, I think your memory betrays you in some ways. So I think like you'll go back and you'll think about it, and you'll be like, yeah, I remember it being better than this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. While we were watching it, I was thinking, I'm sure it looked better than this when I watched it last, but no.
Yeah, and it is a good gauge, though. I think Space 1999 is a good gauge because had they had that sort of production level on this, like the other thing to remember here as well is it's being recorded in. I believe this was recorded in TC1, right? So all the sets and everything are being put into the studio. The sets for the London are tiny. They're really small sets. They're not. They're not what you would use today, or even back then for an independent production company. They would have made them big. They would have made them look like, you know, ships.
The info I've got up in front of me says the filming location was TV Film Studios Ealing.
I can't imagine it being in Ealing.
I
mean, it could
going
be
by what it says.
The location filming might be, but I would have said I'm fairly certain it was TC1. Let's look. Yeah, let's see if I can get some information on that.
I do wonder with some of these programs because I mean I know I go on about it a lot when we've watched like 70s Doctor Who when I'm going on about the performances of the actors. Now I do wonder if like Gareth Thomas and Paul Darrow are on the set and they're looking around thinking, God, this looks shit. Let's make up for it with with the acting. And I don't know whether the two actors how well they got on outside of the program. But I do wonder if they sort of look at each other and go, right, let's give this our all because it looks bad, but we can shine above it, and they do. I mean, the acting is so good in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's not only that, but I mean, even things like the costumes aren't right. Like you look at the costumes, and it's like, right. So they've got all these prisoners, so they're only wearing their own clothes. They haven't issued them with prisoner outfits.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jenna's a bit glam for a prisoner, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's clearly had her hair done and her makeup.
So it's you think like, right, okay, there's that, but then you see like I said, you look at the London, the sets for the London, and it's so standard flat sets that they've just stuck crap to the wall and gone, yeah, that's sci-fi. But it's just random shit, and you're like, you didn't really when you glued that on there, you didn't make that much of an effort. It was like, it was a bit of crap you found in a bin and a hot melt glue gun. Like, it was, it's not that clever, and that's not what when you get good science fiction production design. Like I said, look at Space 1999. All those sets were designed to be sealed-in sets, which is incredibly unusual for filming, and it's shot on film. Some of the sets were wild as well. Though you could take the sets out so you could get more lighting in there and so on. But not only that, but it was also designed to be backlit as well. That's proper production design. What they've done with this was just like, well, let's assemble a couple of flats, paint it white, and that's sci-fi.
Yeah, that'll do.
Even
Yeah.
the grate on the floor is painted on, like, literally, and it's painted on in the wrong color as well. So the grate is actually the floor is grey and the grate is white, as opposed to the floor being white and the grate being grey. It's just weird. But yeah, they could have. There's things that they could have done, but again, we criticizing the BBC production for this show, not the show itself. Let's just be clear about that. We're not criticizing the performance. We're not because again, the production team on this was stuck in the fact that they were building these sets. And when these sets were being struck, it wasn't being struck by their own team. It was being struck by whoever was working that day. And this is something that I think a lot of American people wouldn't understand when it comes to film productions. Is that when you do a set for a TV show, it's not struck. Those permanent sets are permanent sets. They are. You build. If you look at something like the Orville. They're about to ramp up now for season 3 of the Orville. those are 2-story sets with steel frames, and they're permanently built until the end of the show. And until somebody says this show is cancelled, those sets still stand. But with something like Blake Seven, once you finish filming, somebody else needs the studio. They don't dedicate that one studio to that one production. It'll be, Question of Sports in here next week.
Yeah.
And that's how it's done. And so these things would get absolutely smashed. Keep getting. I mean, we've watched Doctor Who now, and you can see with Doctor Who whereby the TARDIS console keeps getting new buttons and new levers all the time, because every time they're taking it out of storage, something gets broken off. The roundels in the walls go from being fiberglass to being basically a back sheet of plastic. Just because there's no respect for it, as far as I'm concerned. And look at it today. I don't think a great deal has changed. I think with companies that spend a lot of money on it, like Netflix, which would spend a lot of money on science fiction, that's very different, because they put in the money in. So you make sure that these sets are looked after. Otherwise, you pay for it yourself.
Well, that's it. I mean, you look at like Netflix, Amazon funded stuff. I mean, you look at The Expanse, and the set for the Rocinante is the same set that they had in the first series.
Yes.
And where we're now, we're just I think series 6 on Amazon now, and I can guarantee, I haven't seen any of it yet, but I guarantee you, the inside of that ship will look exactly the same as it did throughout the series, because
it's not the money spent on it. Actually, it's not just that. So an American TV show will budget out the pilot to include everything that needs to be built. So what you would say is that you want everything built, so that'll be included in the pilot budget. Because when it goes to series, you won't be able to afford to get it built then. So anything. So when they done, like, for example, when they done Star Trek: The Next Generation, they made sure that the script included all the sets for engineering, for sick bay, for transporters, the bridge, corridors. It had all that written into the script, so that they had to go build it. Because if it came to the series, you'd be like, we can't afford to build it. So they put that's automatically included in the production budget for the pilot. Same sort of thing with those. You wouldn't. But with the BBC, it's not their money, so they don't care.
No.
And I think the institution now, the BBC's institution now, it's being more exposed now, than because it's got to be more open about its practices. And I think the more it does open up about its practices, the more shit it seems.
Yeah.
Even modern practices. I mean, it's you know yourself. It's if you're comparing how the shows were back then. I would say the production quality on Blake 7, unfortunately, at this particular point in time, is worse than Saturday Swap Shop. I think Saturday Swap Shop's got higher production values than Blake 7.
I can well believe it.
Well, that's because it's sci-fi. That's just silly stuff for children. That's BBC's take on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying while it was on, the BBC does look down its nose at science fiction.
It does.
It doesn't consider it proper drama or whatever,
Which is a massive shame, because, again, you could see what Blake 7 has in its arsenal. As a show that is talking about the contemporary state of. Are we talking about a time as well whereby we've just had the miners' strikes, and it's not just riffing on not just your standard political narrative of them versus us, which it does do. It does do a them versus us story, but it's far more integral. It's far more it's more nuanced. It's got a lot more to it. That there's no rights and wrongs here, and then there are clear rights and wrongs. You know, Riker killing the prisoners was a clear wrong, but he's supposed to be on the good side, whereas Blake also seizing the ship. You know, who's ultimately responsible for these people's lives? You know, so there's a lot of back and forth with that. I mean, we can talk about them actually seizing the ship. Was Blake right to give up the computer room? I mean, we know how it turns out with the Liberator, but if he was in that situation, should he have just damned the computer anyway?
Well, I mean, he had the you know, whether he chose to believe it or not, you know, he had the captain saying to him, you know, there's a blip that we've been following. We don't know what it is. You could be risking everyone. And then, you know, I think even though Blake is painted as a bit of a terrorist before he was brainwashed, he does sort of come across as a man of the people. And I don't think the way his character has been designed that he would idly stand by and watch people get shot. I mean,
I don't know about that. Well, certainly later on, it's you know, he's leading people into missions, and it's like, right, we are going to do this. I don't care if you don't want to, you know, you don't want to do it. You're still going to go ahead and do it.
Well, yeah,
because I'm telling you to. You know, so
yeah, but that's later on. I mean, I'm working with what we've seen so far.
Well, what we've seen so far, I mean, we have seen glimpses of his fanaticism there, you know, his speech in the computer room. So,
I'm wondering whether or not we should have seen what Blake was actually like before. You know, even if it was just like done in a flashback or something, I think we should have seen what Blake was like before we were introduced to him.
I don't think many people would have liked what they saw.
This is it. This is a part of the narrative of the story.
Yeah.
Whether or not, you know, who is this character? Like, you know, and how has he been changed? Because, as you said, you know, his fanaticism in the being exposed in the computer room is one of those things whereby, is this his personality? Is this his real personality, or is this something that has been altered? You know, because they do mind altering things. They do it with Gan. You know, they've sewn that chip into his head.
Yeah, the limiter chip that he's got. Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, we were talking about this before this episode started, where, you know, how much of this control is aggressive. I don't know if you could have it. Aggressive pacifism, then, you know, to control these people, to make sure that these people are unable to hurt people.
Well, certainly in the case of Gan, it's you could argue that it was warranted, because of course in the episode where it goes wrong, his first instinct is to kill everybody he comes across.
Yeah.
So you know, there's an example where, yeah, it is justified.
Yeah, but it's one of those. This is what I like with the show. It keeps throwing these situations up and saying, well, you know, this was done for this reason. Is it right? And it doesn't ever say, oh no, it is right. It just says, is it right? And you gotta love that with Blake Seven. Despite the fact that you've got these sets that are ropey as hell, light in which can be trying to be good, but at the same time is pretty flat and even.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about the sets and our you know, ropey, what do you actually think of the bridge of the what will become the Liberator? Because I actually quite like that set.
I didn't like the way the panel sort of like leant over as they were pressing the buttons.
Yeah. The design of it is okay. there's the problem with it stems from the fact that they aren't able to use it properly. So you've got a set that's sort of it's broken up into three levels, right? You've got the two seats at the back, you've got the other seats in the middle, and you've got the lounge down the front. It's just that there's no way to get in and out with the cameras, so that anytime you either got these people sat down, and it's not really framed very well for a 4x3 picture. It's
All right, I meant more in the way it looks rather than the practicality of it.
no, but that's what I mean. But when it comes to the practicality of it, when you design something for TV, you have to design it so that it fits the view, and even when it's just to look at what's good and what's bad, where good and bad designs come into work. I've said this before. If you were to ask somebody to draw a picture of the next generation bridge, they could pretty much, from looking from the view screen backwards, you could probably draw ops, con, captain's chair, the three seats, the horseshoe, and the stations behind. Right? That's good design, because you don't even have to really think about it too much. You want bad design? Try drawing the command room from Deep Space Nine. I couldn't even begin to tell you what shape that is.
No.
I watched that series, all 7 seasons, at least 10 times, right the way through. I couldn't begin to tell you what shape that bloody con room is. It's all over the place. And so, when it comes to the design of the Liberator, it's an easily recognizable design. You've got the seats down the front, you've got the other seats up above, and you've got the exit, and you've got the Zen on the side there, and the screen. It's a basic design. But is it useful as a bridge? It's not the most inspired design.
There are bits of it that I like, and there are
Yeah.
bits of it I can't stand. The parts I can't stand, thankfully, you didn't really see them too much in this episode, but in the next one you do. The control bit, when they're piloting it, you know, the bits they hold and you push, it looks ridiculous. It really does look awful. I am so glad they didn't keep that. They got rid of it fairly early on in the series. Yeah, that was terrible. And the consoles needed to be fixed more firmly, so they're not, you know, going from side to side as you're pushing the buttons. Yeah. But on the whole, I think it does look quite good. It's almost as iconic as the Liberator ship itself, you know. So they must have done something right.
I mean, you don't really get to see the airlock hatch corridor that often.
No.
It's over on the side. You do see it from time to time. The actual view, I mean, it's not an awful design. It does look a little bit like a sci-fi version of Blankety Blank when they're all sitting down. But
All I remember is when I was a kid, I wanted my own one.
Yeah. Let me just open this up for a second, just so that we can share this. So it's just so you can see what we're talking about here. Like this design on the bridge here. You know, you got these 5 seats here, and the lounge bit in the middle. I'm not so sure you needed this lounge bit here. I don't even know, because it's not really used.
I would have put it more to one side. It's very central there, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I would have put where you got Gan there behind the centre. I think that should have been pulled forward. So you should have had that, these two here, these two maybe elevated up, and this one down here. Does that make sense?
So the single console
It's
at the
four.
front, so. I quite like the positioning of the 5 consoles, but yeah, that the lounge part, I'd have had that more to one side. That I think would have worked a bit better.
I don't even know. See, I don't even know if you need it at all. I'm trying to figure out, like, because again, it's not like they ever really use this set optimally. Do you know
No,
what I mean?
I really like it. I always have done. I always thought really what should have happened there is they the centre seat there on the lounge. That's where Blake should have sat, and everyone else takes their stations around him, seeing as he was kind of the leader. I never
Yeah.
really thought about whether it needed the lounge or not. I just don't
But
know. I
this is what I'm
really
saying,
like the
because
design.
because it's not used. The idea here is that you design this what's supposed to be this battleship, and that doesn't say battleship to me. That lounge, it's the same as the next generation bridge. It says hotel.
Yeah.
Maybe the waiting room for a dentist, but
Well, maybe the alien race that built the ship, had severe problems with piles or something, and so they needed comfy chairs. You don't want to go into battle with a sore ass, do you?
But I do like the electric drum sets, pods, and the chairs that they've got for the controls. I do like those. They are I believe these were outsourced actually. I think that when they made these consoles, they were actually outsourced to a company that did fiberglass in.
I
So
think the thing I like about it, if you think back to the time when it was created,
yes,
although you'd had the original series of Star Trek that had a bridge, and you can see similarities here and there with the way things are positioned, but even so, this was designed. There wasn't anything else that looked like it. I mean, I don't remember being a kid seeing this and thinking, "Oh, that looks just like such and such." That looked like the Liberator, and that's it.
It was certainly unique, and it still is, because you
It
still
sort
don't
of
get
is,
anything like that.
but I mean, you've got to remember at this moment in time as well, you've already got Buck Rogers out there, and you've already got Battlestar Galactica coming out at the same time, and you've got the Bridge of the Galactica, which looks way better.
Well, it looks like it's a battleship, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Bridge of the Galactica. There is no denying that is a ship that was built for anything other than war.
Yeah, I think that there's things here that they could have done better, that they could have improved upon. Just
See,
that.
with the Galactica, that's a battleship that's built by Scania, whereas the Liberator is a battleship that's built by Lamborghini, and that's just the way it is.
Well,
It's like a
built by Fairy
sports
Liquid,
model, isn't it?
I was waiting for Fairy Liquid bottles to get a mention at some point. Yeah, there you go.
Hands that you did, you can feel soft as your face. Mild feeling Liberator. I like. There's things I do like about the design. I do like the individual pods. I do like the fact that each panel has its own pod. Do you know what I mean? These individual units there that can be put together in any configuration to give you these controls. I like that. That is different. I like the chairs. I like the fact that they've got these tapered supports here that build into the floor. All that stuff, they've had to add these extra supports here, which you're not supposed to see, I don't think. But they've had to add those to stop them from rocking and rolling. You can see one down here as well. So I do like that about it. It's just the fact that it does feel, you can tell that this was put together by the same people who put together the set for Top of the Pops. I mean, it was designed to look this way. It's not like it wasn't actually, they didn't make this up. They went to the art department. The art department drew it and said, "Here you go. Go build that," and that's what they built. So it is built to look the way they intended. It's just the way that I feel like it was designed that way, and maybe they should have taken another pass at it to make it more inclusive of actually filming. You know, it lacks it's got some practicality to it, but like things like this area here, whereby you've got no walkway up over, you've kind of got to jump across. It's not making it really, or you're gonna have to walk down, around, and up to get it to this. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
There's little things like that which you just like. You could have streamlined this a little bit better.
Well, they
You
certainly
know.
wouldn't build it like that now because,
No.
yeah, no wheelchair access. There you go.
No,
yeah, so, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Or everything would be ramps.
Yeah.
Ramps
You've got
and
ramps everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have the maximum amount of space to deal with either. I do like the orange glow coming from the walls behind, but I think that this should have been a bit more everywhere, not just in this one area. I think I would have liked this a bit more round the set, just to give it a bit more of a tied up vibe. Let's have a look, see what else we got. Yeah, any other views? Yeah, the seating donut doesn't work for me. So yeah. I'm trying to find a nice view of it. Yeah, there we go.
Lego Liberator, there you are.
Yeah. There is there. That actually looks better.
I knew that was coming.
I don't know. When you talk to people that haven't got a clue.
Yeah, I think I mean, this is a nice little model of the flight deck. Yeah, I think I would have liked these orange panels to be a bit more around here as well, because it kind of, I don't know, it's sort of that period whereby old cars used to have wood paneling across the dashboard. Where you used to have the wood panel with the chrome surround for the clocks and all that, and you still had the ashtray built in and things. That's what that looks like. You can see there's built-in ashtrays there somewhere. It's like the inside of a bloody Morris 1000.
So it was built by British Leyland, eh? Well, yeah, I'm sure the build quality is going to be fantastic on it.
Well, no wonder they're all wobbles.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they managed to start it to get away from the London.
Yeah, it is what it is. I've seen worse sci-fi designs for again Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine's bridge is god awful. I don't care, and I know the person that built it, so I don't hold back. But again, if you were to compare it to say something like Voyager's bridge, Voyager's bridge is another one that I think is awful.
Yeah, it's a real mess. It's all over the place, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't like that either. So I think that's why I don't like this. It's for a very similar reason. But it's not that it's bad. It's just the fact that they should have spent a little bit more money on it, and they should have taken another pass at the design. I wouldn't have changed that much about it. That's the honest truth. I wouldn't have changed that much about it.
I would have made the view screen bigger. It always struck me as being too small.
It's always, and it's off to one side as well. It's not central.
Yeah.
You've got the door there, then you've got Zen, and then you've got the view screen. But that's the problem with the design, is because it's a three-sided set, and they never design a three-sided set with the fourth wall in mind. So I think it works for the show. At least it's trying to be more three-dimensional in its design. it's at least trying to have a rostrum with these seats that go up higher, and it's trying to be a bit more up and down than just being this flat. Because it could have all been on the stage floor. You know, all the seats and everything could have been on the stage floor, and that would have been it. So I like that part of it.
I think there's more that's good about it than there is bad.
definitely.
So, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. It's at least it's got that to it.
I think it's very comfortable. I mean, I'm sat in it now, clearly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But you were up in the air. I mean, you know.
Yeah, you've got a
sat
very unique seating position there, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Well, you
You're
obviously
sitting above the airlock.
you never got to see this one because obviously you never saw the fourth wall on on the show.
Yeah, well, we're looking at where you are sitting. You are sitting above the airlock, so
Someone's got to guard it.
yeah. Yeah, I think we're the Liberator, because it's somewhere between a sci-fi set and Wogan. Do you know what I mean? Do you know the old Wogan set?
You say that like it's a bad thing.
No, but it's got that entrance that faces camera. So every time somebody walks in, they have to walk down that alleyway to. It's like as if they were going to walk out and say good evening. You know, it's just and then they sit down in the lounge and then welcome their guests, and the guests walk down that ramp. It's it's a good design, but it's not great. And they could have done a little bit more. It looks like it. I think what I would have done with it again, I would have definitely had more glowing walls, because instead of just having them at the back. It's almost a Bond-esque Adams design. It's almost. It's not quite, but it's not enough to be alien to me. You know.
Yeah, it doesn't have much of a sort of like alien feel to it, that's for sure.
No, I mean it's that's the problem. We do see who builds the Liberator eventually.
First episode of series 2.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think if Ken Adams had taken a pass at the design, who obviously is famous for doing the Bond sets, you'd have ended up with something that looked a bit more alien. And something that looked a little bit more unique. Not that there's anything really wrong with the Liberator is what it is. And that's it really. I don't think you can say any more on that.
I love it, mate. It's one of them things I absolutely love.
It's okay. I'm trying to find a good example. Where is no, I can't find it. Never mind, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's so what I would say is that the set looks okay, but when you got things like Blankety Blank and Family Fortunes at the same time, which have better looking sets, it's just exposing how little crap they give about the show, really. Because I think you could have taken the same design and just fixed it up and painted it properly and presented it with better materials. But obviously, the BBC being what the BBC is, it was never going to happen.
No.
But we need to talk about some of the performances here, though, with the guards. Um, it's one of these strange things whereby this supposed to be the good guys, but obviously from our perspective, they're the bad guys. Did they do the right thing there with them? Like, would you have thought that they might have had a scene in there where at least one of them was like questioning what are they doing, or is it okay as it is without? Because obviously,
Raker is clearly a psychopath, and he's
this is what I'm
the
saying.
atypical bent cop, isn't he? You know,
Yeah.
that's the way he came across.
But he's doing it in front of other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, the captain seemed like a reasonable person, and I mean, he did try to wind him in a bit, but then also he said to him, "Don't make it obvious," when he was obviously talking about the fact that he was going to
Yeah,
do rude things to Jenna.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, with the universe that is painted right now, would you have had one of the guards at least go, "Hey, that's a step too far," like, or is this universe okay as it is without saying, without trying to put in some sort of moral script?
No, I don't think the guards would have questioned anything. You always get the impression. I think it's more for the fact that, if they were to question it, they'd probably end up on the receiving end of something or other. So they just keep stum for the sake of their own health,
Yeah.
So I don't think it would have worked if there'd been like any guards there questioning any orders.
The reason why I'm bringing it up is because I'm trying to work out whether or not this show would have been beneficial if it had somebody there that was a bit, because they did it in the first episode, right? They had the lawyer who was basically a moral compass and ended up getting killed for it. He was somebody who did question it. He was somebody that wasn't just taking it laying down. It was somebody that was actually saying, "Hey, I know this person's probably a bad person, and I know that he definitely is a bad person, but in this regard, it's actually the system that's wrong."
Yeah.
Whereas we don't have that in this episode. There's none of that balance there, and as you pointed out, you've got Blake's clear fanaticism bouncing off against people like Avon. You've got all that going on, but then the guards and the people who are supposed to be the good guys, then they're also not good.
I think the way they've done it in terms of storytelling, by making the guards on the prison ship, pretty much fairly nasty pieces of work, is because you've got to, you think of the series going forward, your heroes is basically Blake and Avon and the entire Liberator crew. So they've got to make these criminals look like they're morally superior to the guards on the prison ship.
This is it, but I think like they've got everything in this episode though. In particular, is it delivered in moral ambiguity. There's no clear right or wrong until Raker decides to execute the prisoners.
Yeah.
But there's no prison guard there where that or anybody who's supposed to be on the side of moral righteousness. I mean, maybe the captain.
Well, the captain always comes across as being one of those, he's obviously been doing this for a long time. He's seen it all and he's become very sort of cynical. Whereas,
yeah, absolutely.
To me, all of the crew members, they all look like, and I think this is intentional, they all look like they don't want to be there because it's probably a shitty job. It's a god-awful ship that's that's falling to pieces, transporting prisoners that no one wants anything to do with. So, they they basically they do their orders because it's just like, yeah, the sooner we do this, the sooner it's over and done with, and we can get back. You know.
Is it
I would
part of the
say-
time?
I would say because they're clearly not police. If anything, this is the Blake 7th equivalent of Group 4 security.
Group 4, yeah. Well, they're not that useless, though, are they?
But it's like, given the story as well and the time period this comes from, like 1978, there is this tone to this episode whereby they loosely talk about rape. Like it's not even a, it's not even it's like it's almost as if sexually assaulting this woman is okay.
Oh, I don't know about it coming across as being okay.
Well,
I think
because what I'm saying is like when Jenna starts talking about it as well, she's not like, oh, he's going to rape me. She's like, oh, I've had worse offers. It's not a rape. It's not an offer.
No, it's not.
And that's what I'm saying. With how they portray it in this story, I'm wondering whether or not it's because at the time when this was being made, that there were these things taught where you know, domestic abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault was still, I don't want to say it wasn't as prolific in the courts. You know,
No, it was still a taboo subject to talk about, weren't it? It's you can't put the word sex in the newspapers.
yeah. Well, and it's not only that; it's the fact that I mean, there were shows around at the time, right? And I had like the Benny Hill show. There's one sketch from the Benny Hill show that I sticks with me to this day, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not like you can't do that. And there's this one sketch whereby this woman has been kidnapped by Native Americans, and she's like tied to this post, and Benny Hill comes in there, and he's the sheriff, and she's tied up, and she's hands behind her back, tied to this post like that, and she's like, "Oh, thank God, sheriff! Thank God you're here. You know, I've been kidnapped by these Indians and." They're doing horrible things to me, and now you've come along, and everything's better. And he goes, well, love, this is not your day. He just pulls his trousers down. Like, that's not good.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one.
Really?
No.
He's just literally...
Yeah.
It's not your day.
Can you imagine if that got shown on television today? Jesus Christ!
They've started showing Benny Hill again, haven't they? There was a bit of an outcry about it, but I don't know.
But I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Is the attitude towards this sort of behaviour at the time was not as
frowned
morally
upon.
reprehensible.
Yeah.
As it is today, mainly because domestic violence, domestic abuse, sexual assault, it was stuff that was not talked about. And I think, like, you know, when we see it in this show here, I think that, you know, we are talking about the implication of rape on the character of Jenna Stannis, and even Jenna Stannis is kind of like, and I'm like, this is. You know, she's obviously not willing, but there's still a bit of a I don't want to say levity is not the right word, but there's still a
she almost treats it as if there's an inevitability about
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
an acceptance that's what's going to happen.
yes, that's more yeah, acceptance is more of it, and it's strange that they talk about it in that way. Like, I think today, if they'd done something like that today, you'd be, I don't know, it depending on how graphic you wanted to go with it. I think you could do I don't know if the BBC would do it, but I think there is a potential for I don't know if you there'd be a necessity to, but instead of talk about it, but to actually show it almost happening. If
Yeah, it depends on who was actually making it. Yeah, if it was
yeah,
the BBC, they wouldn't. If it was
yeah,
Channel 4, they'd probably show the whole bloody thing from start to
yeah,
finish.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, they
exactly.
might have done years ago. I don't know. I think Channel 4 are just as bad as everyone else now.
But it does paint these people in such a uh, it's dystopic. It is, isn't it? That's what we're talking about here. Is a society whereby if they manage to make it off Earth, they behave. It's almost like a counter reaction to being on Earth. Because with the people on Earth are all euphoric and subdued, whereas the people that are able to leave Earth seem to be like, oh, we have a choice of putting suppressants in the food. Therefore, we don't have that, so they're more animalistic.
Yeah, in fact, actually, that got me thinking because at the start of the voyage, the captain says, he wants a lot of suppressants put in there because he likes them kept docile.
Docile, yeah.
It doesn't look like there were many suppressants put in their food supply throughout this entire bloody voyage.
Well, did they eat it? That's
Well,
the
that's
other thing.
the other thing. Yeah, they could have all been on hunger strike or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, there was when they were taking over the ship, I mean, I got the impression that they was halfway through the voyage because someone actually says to Avon, "You've been thinking about it for 4 months," and
For
that's
4 months, yeah.
So that's like half of the journey.
yeah, so having them actually be docile through that time. I want to see if there's anything about that being pointed out. Let's have a look, see if there's anything to do with that. On here. No, the only thing it says there is, despite the Liberator being a magnificent ship, when Jenna first tries out the controls in the grey button, it clearly rocks from side to side as she presses it down. Yes.
Yeah, we all saw that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no real details about that. That's it. You can't get a great deal of technical information about this episode. Actually, the most it says about technical information is it's in color, sound mix mono.
Oh, in colour from 1978. I mean, that's staggering. That.
But it is what it is. Obviously, like I think the next episode that we've got for this is one where
Oh,
Brian
Brian Blessed, yeah.
Can't go wrong with Brian
Vargas.
Blessed.
No, it's again, it's a story about fanatics. That's what it's. I think that's what it's been so far with the first 3 episodes. Is a fanatical dealing with bouncing from fanatic to fanatic, and the fanaticism, because Blake is a fanatic, Avon's a fanatic. They all are. It's just it's what they're fanatical about.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's like an undercurrent of a story to the whole series, but the first 3 episodes in particular really do form a part of like one sort of story.
Yeah, it's it is well, it's all one story really, isn't it? The next couple of episodes,
Yeah.
and it's only up until I think it was episode 4 is where we get introduced to Callie.
I think, isn't that also the one where Serverland first appears?
I think so, yeah. Zen. Let's look at the list. Zen, David Jackson. No, not by the looks of it. No, I think she's going to be episode 5. So yeah. She can't be further in than episode 5, surely.
Well, she wasn't supposed to be a recurring character, really, to start with. I'm sure I read somewhere that she was supposed to be sort of like this one-off character,
Yeah,
and then she sort of stuck around, and then they had this idea of just she went everywhere dressed in ballroom gowns and stuff like that. I mean, she carried it off really well.
Oh yeah.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. She was always dressed to the nines, and I like Silverland. I think Silverland's a fantastic character.
Yeah.
But let's look. Yeah, Blake Seven, Silverland. So yeah. What the hell? I swear I just clicked on that. Uh, Seek, Locate, Destroy was the first episode.
No, and that's also the first episode with Travis.
Yes. So that was yeah. It's episode 6. Silverland comes into it. Again, your memory thinks that she's in it from the get go, but actually she's 6 episodes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we are. Right. I don't know if we've got any more to talk about with this episode. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Rating it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, this is what we're going to get onto now. So, I think let's go to Chris first. Chris.
Well, I gave episode 1 10 out of 10,
Mhm.
and I think this one's better, so I'm giving it 11.
That's up to you. It's your rating. it's your rating.
I honestly, all the jokes aside, I'll give this one a 10 as well to stick within the scale.
Yeah.
I think the opening 2 episodes of this, production woes aside, I think it's possibly the best opening to any sci-fi series because of how well written it is and the portrayal of the characters. So for me, as far as sci-fi goes, this is my pinnacle. This is the best opening to a series. So yeah, I'll follow this one with another 10 because it's literally my favourite.
Yeah, it's very cool. Lukusa.
Well, I can't give it a 10 because there are some flaws in here.
Some.
It is a great story, and for the most part, there is great acting.
Yes.
If you ignore the drop your gun bit, which was just stupid. The sets are horrendous. I didn't remember them being as bad as they are. They really are terrible. The effects, for the most part, aren't that great either.
5 lit bulbs. You're going to afford 4. There are 4 lights.
Yeah.
And that's all we can afford.
Yeah, it's. I mean, when you can say that about it, you do sort of think, yeah, these sets really aren't that great, are they? But I do actually enjoy this more than the first episode. I definitely go along with what Chris was saying, that it makes a very welcome change, because there are so many science fiction programs where you watch the first episode and it's great, and the second episode is, and unfortunately, in the next one of these we're doing, we're going to get an example of that. But this didn't. In fact, if anything, I say this was even better than the first, and it's a very long-winded way of me saying I'm going to give it the same score as episode 1, so I'll give it 8.5.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I'm gonna take a point off for the production values. I've got to do that. If we start off with a 10, I take a point off for the production values, because there's no excuse for some of those sets. They could have just spent a little bit more money just to. There's no nomenclature. There's no, highlighting. There's no shading on the sets. It's literally just flat sets. The cheapest of the cheap builds. So it's not coming from the actual show itself, but more the BBC production values.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a point off of that. I'm taking a point off of Dudley Simpson scoring in this because he could have done a better job. We're long past just blopping out stuff for science fiction because that was how we were past that in the 70s. You know, in the early part of the 70s, where we had much better scores coming from Dudley Simpson himself, with things like Doctor Who and so on. Whereby he's done a much better job of it. So I'm going to take another point off of that. Some of the camera work in this was really not that clever. I will say this though, the stunt work in this was pretty decent. The fight scene between Avon and the guy in the computer room, there was a little bit of shoving about, but I mean there was some weird stuff whereby he tried to bloody fishhook him. I don't know if that's a valid attack, to be honest with you. Fish hooking somebody, I don't believe is a practical way to knock them out. I think you might want to consider punching, but you know, and then he just sort of slaps him in the ears.
Yes.
But you know, it's not the best fight scene, but it looked scruffy, which is what you want from a fight. You don't want fight scenes that look choreographed.
No.
It even though it was a little bit weird. You're right in what you're saying with the who'll drop the gun part. I can't disagree with that. That was abysmal. They should have done something else there. Totally, they should have done something else there. Even if one of them had just like shot his gun or something as he was running, or the gun had jammed. You know, that was,
anything but what they actually put in. Yeah.
You know, so because that just made Villa just look like idiot.
Yeah,
but he is.
But he's not.
No, he's a coward. You know, he's not stupid. We get plenty of episodes where we see he's not stupid, but
this doesn't play to it.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So, I think overall, I'm not going to try to be too harsh with this. I'm probably going to give it an 8. I do like it. I do love the London. I'm not so keen on the Liberator.
That's because you're weird, but we will let you in.
It's just a bit Thunderbird. I've actually seen the Liberator model being put together.
It's a big old model, actually.
Yeah,
that thing.
It's about a meter long, and it goes together the back section first. So you get the back piece there that goes on, plugs onto the stand, and then you plug the center piece in, and then you plug one of the pods on, and then the other pod, and then it all comes apart. But it's actually still in the same condition it was in when it went boom. So it hasn't been restored or nothing. It's still just scarred from sparklers. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. It's not going to get better. Season 4 we'll get the Scorpio. So knock off Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, it's all knock-off Star Wars. 77 past. This is all knock-off Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Series 4, knock-off Star Destroyer, the guns they use, is that a knock-off Han Solo blaster there? You know, God dear, they didn't even try to hide it, you know?
No. And when they introduced the Scorpio as well, they introduced, what's his name? The character, what's the guy's name?
Dorian?
Yeah, he's kind of sort of this Han Solo-y type, isn't he? He's a dashing, handsome figure.
Yeah, and he's a smuggler. Oh no, he's a salvage guy, isn't he? But
he's a smuggler.
Yeah.
Come on, you know. So yeah, it does change direction a bit. The fact that it's Blake 7 and there's like 4 of them is,
and not one of them's called Blake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although,
So,
you know, obviously they bring in Tarrant that's got the same haircut, but you know.
Yeah. There we go. Anyway, hope you had a good night. Next week we will be doing more Space 1999. So that's going to be interesting. Where we'll see Ian McShane going on a weird trip. Yeah, that's going to be good. That's where you can see where somebody spent money on it and gone, no, let's get value out of this. Let's really, because that steps up a big time. I think it's a really good episode actually next week.
I'm not so big on it, but I mean, when you again after what we've just seen, and then you look at the sets and the model work and that in this, it's just on a whole different level.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Again, not willing to blame the show, blame the BBC production.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, have a good one, and we shall see you next week for Space 1999.
See you later.
Take care.